I am Justin Boyd.
I'm Marcy Gonzalez.
I too am thinking about quitting and just going to work at French Laundry. I'm Tristan Jones.
We are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss season 4 of the FX hit The Bear. And Marcy, Tristan, we did season 3 last year. Really looking forward to talking about season 4. And I want to get your overall thoughts first. But then I want to talk about the fact that the show's been renewed. But before we do that, let me hit the audience with some Bear facts. The Bear is obviously, we're talking about season 4, created by Christopher Storer. It has a cast that includes Jeremy Allen White, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, Ayo Edebiri, Lionel Boyce, Liza Colón-Zayas, Abby Elliott, Oliver Platt, Matty Matheson, and Edwin Lee Gibson, and a host of other reoccurring guest stars and special guest stars, and we'll talk about that also. This is one of the most, as far as awards in just the 2 seasons. Now, granted, we're talking about season 4, but season 3 will be what people will be, when the Emmys come around this year and the Golden Globes come around this year. Season 3 is what will be, potentially in the running. But in just 2 seasons, the show has won 21 Primetime Emmy Awards and 5 Golden Globes. It has been a critical darling, although season 4 dipped a little bit critically, but that's okay. Let's get overall thoughts. Marcy, what'd you think about this season overall?
I really liked this season. I think I reposted a story earlier on my Instagram saying that this season really got me in my feels in a good way. So I enjoyed it, but I can also understand there's been a lot of talk on the internet about people saying they didn't love it because it felt like not a lot happened, which is true. This season doesn't really progress the story too much, although we get some pretty big happenings toward the end of the season that will set up season 5. But I liked that it really gave us an insight into a lot of some of the characters, but it was a time for Carmy to really deal with his shit, right? Last season was him knowing why he is the way he is because of all the pressure that he'd been under at the previous restaurants and the previous chefs that he'd worked under. And this year was just kind of him trying to do better for himself. And I think he did because he was able to mend some relationships that definitely needed some mending. So I really enjoyed the season. But again, I can understand where a lot of people may be coming from. It's they wanted the story to progress a little bit further.
Yeah.
Well, the opposite reasons. I mean, not opposite of Marcy. Love Marcy and everything she says. She's always right. I love this season. And I loved it for the fact that I thought that a lot did happen in this season, but I guess there's a parallel kind of understanding of what moving the plot forward looks like in different shows. And in the case of The Bear, you can kind of divide that up by a different season, right? Season 1 and 2 are there's literal tactical things that are moving, tangible things that are moving. We're trying to open up a restaurant, we're transforming a restaurant, we're these things. Season 3 kind of start getting a little bit more meta as far as things happen. You really start to see a break in Carmy. And this is why I think so much happens in season 4, because I think the point of The Bear is Carmy, right? And I've always thought it was about his own emotional journey, just how to act like an adult, Yeah. So, how to function like an adult, how to function within relationships, despite the environment that he grew up in. And I think that's the undercurrent of the show. And it's also the cloud over the show. It's there's this trauma that so many people are dealing with because of where they came from. And it's affected not just their decisions, how they live life, how they cope and all these things, but how they treat other people, how they just maneuver throughout life. And this show is about Carmy, right? And the vehicle is the bears, the vehicle is the cooking and the stress, but all the stress and all these things, and we'll talk as we go. But I love this show. I love this season because I felt soulfully like things were moving, right? Characters were moving, like their perspectives were moving, how they saw themselves were moving. So like to me, I got the same level of anxiety that I did with like, okay, will they be able to get this restaurant open in time? Like it felt like the same stakes to me. So I thought actually season 4 surpassed season 3 for me. So I have it third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, okay. First off, and Tristan, we've talked about this many times. I'm not a binger. I don't like the binge. I don't think the binge helps a show, for entertainment purposes. I don't think it certainly doesn't help it business wise, in my opinion. Like if you have a big show that has a great cast, why do you want to dump it one day and then the next week people move on to the next thing? Like when you could have 10 weeks of people talking about this show and thinking about it. Because for me,
I have a theory on that when you're done.
okay,
Quick
yeah.
theory.
But the thing about this is nothing new, right? This is 4 seasons. They've done the same thing in like basically late June of the past 4 years. They dropped the entire season, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, whatever. They dropped it all. So I'm used to that. I got it. But I watched the first 4 episodes last Friday, and I watched the final 6 the next day. And I got to say, like, for a show that starts out telling you that every second counts, and we literally have a clock on the wall, which is just an insane way to work and live your life with a clock, like a countdown clock of 1,440 hours. They have this basically 2 months to keep this restaurant afloat, keep it open. And to me, the first couple episodes were very slow and kind of meandering, right? To me, like the end of episode 3, it really kind of get it. Then episode 4, I thought episode 4 was great. And then from then on out, it just felt like another great Bear season. And I was like, well, it was okay. I liked it. I love the show. But then I had some time to like think about it. And I went back and watched the first episode again. I'm like, yeah, this is a great episode. Like, this is like, I think I was just like the pressure of like, I've got to watch this because I thought this was the last season. And so I wanted to watch it before people spoiled it for me online, because people spoil everything online. And this is where I should say we are going to spoil the show. So if you haven't watched The Bear season 4 and you care about it, please come back after you've watched it and check out our podcast. But I thought I was going to get spoiled, so I wanted to hurry up and find out what happened. And before I started watching the show, I scanned through the titles of the 10 episodes. The final episode is called Goodbye. That's the title. So with that title, I'm like, oh, they're going to wrap this up in 4 seasons, because we had heard that this was supposed to be a 3-season show, that they extended another season for business reasons. Obviously, it's a huge hit. FX wants to keep winning those awards that I mentioned before, which, understandable, makes sense. Every company in the world will always, if you like something, they're going to give it to you some more. That's just the way the world works, right? That's capitalism. That's just how the system goes. But like I said, I thought like this show's about to end and I've got to get through this. But if I'd had 10 weeks to like really savor and enjoy it like a good meal, I think I honestly, I don't know if it's the best season, but like all these seasons to me, it's one giant story that's spread over 4 years, and I just enjoy it. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Listen, your thoughts on the binge? Yeah.
So my thoughts on that, I was thinking about this as I was watching The Bear, actually, kind of developed this theory. But I think if we look at it, we kind of broaden out in the way that studios look at entertainment. Like it's like everything's compressed into like one, essentially like a movie, right? So as our movie stars have now become our TV show stars, you're like literally same people, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think studios are treating TV shows, these seasons, like just one long movie. Like we'll sit it and we'll talk about it, and we may not, the thing that's changed is we're not looking at it episodically, right? Like episode 1, and we're just sitting here talking about it, and that's the whole discussion. The Bear, like you said, because there's a through line between season 1 and season 4 on this continuous story, like I think they make the bet that we'll continue to talk about it on a macro scale, right, instead of just like episodically, like we're used to talking about so many of these things. And again, it's up to you to decide if they're right or not. Is it something that you're still talking about? Is something that are you still looking for the Bear content essentially a week after it's dropped and you've watched the episodes? I am, because again, the story I think takes on this larger thing. But that's my theory. That's just what I cooked up while watching it. Very high.
Yeah, I just think that like it's like I've always said this. It's not a great example, but like the NFL season, they stretch it over 20 weeks of the year, right? They don't say, you know what? We're going to just knock it out in 1 week. We're going to play 5 games, and whichever teams live to play the next day, we're going to keep going. We're going to knock it. No, they stretch it out over months and months and months. So you get to, it builds up. The intention, like with this show, with every season of the Bear, we have one big cameo fest, which they're not actually cameos because they're actually very, very pivotal guest stars that play a role in the story. But like, if you had time to okay, 7 weeks in, we're teasing this big episode with these people that we know are coming back. Like, I don't understand why that old TV mindset wouldn't work even nowadays. I just don't. I mean, we just talked about a show last night, Ironheart, which was a 6-episode show that Disney dropped in two weeks, 3-episode chunks, and just knocked it out in 2 weeks. And it's like they were trying to bury it. And it's like that turned out to be one of their better shows. Like, a lot of people are actually watching the show and going, "That's pretty good." Like, why didn't you let it breathe for a little while? Like, I don't know.
I don't think entertainment, the big wigs, I just don't think they have faith in their audience to stay with something. Or it may just be logistically like, hey, we got this other thing on FX that we're trying to roll out. Old Man is done. Like, canceled that shit. So I don't know. But I don't know. My theory is just like, hey, the way we talk about Marvel movies, right? Like the way we talk about Mission Impossible movies, like if we can compress it, to have everybody talk about it for this weekend and continue to rewatch, and it may be another factor. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some business reason for it. Like, it obviously works out in their favor. I don't see it. Marcy, you have any thoughts on the binge model, or how did you watch the show? Did you watch it in chunks, or did you kind of take your time and go through it?
I tried to take my time for this season because I typically do try to binge it when it comes out, and I can usually knock it out within 1 to 2 days. 2 days usually, because it's too chaotic for me to get through the whole thing in one day.
Yeah.
But this time I wasn't able to really get started on it when it dropped because, like I told y'all in the group chat, I had shit to do last week and I couldn't get pulled into Carmi's bullshit. I was like, no, I will save it for the weekend when I have more emotional capacity. So I started it Monday and just watched a couple. I definitely think it could also benefit from being HBO has kept doing very well, doing weekly.
Great example. Great,
and people are talking about it, right? People talk about The Last of Us, whether it's good or bad from this last season. White Lotus recently, a lot of people were talking about it. And I also think it would be better for the audience because audiences now, they say nothing really happened. The season sucked because nothing happened. But when we used to get episodic television, whether it was dramatic or sitcoms, you'd get maybe an average of 22 shows per season. And a good part of those were filler episodes where not a lot is happening to advance a particular storyline, but you're getting more insight into the characters or, why some things are happening. So I would love it if we could go back to that because, again, there wasn't so much of this. Well, you only get 10 episodes for the season and then it's done. And then you may not see it for a year, 2 years, maybe if you're lucky. So I would love it if we could go back to that format of a show drops in September. You get 22 episodes of it, ends in May. And then, it's going to be right back in September. That would be amazing. But audiences today, we have such short attention spans to where it's no, that's too much. Not a lot's happening. This is crap. We've really done a disservice to ourselves to get into that mind frame.
We really have. We've really kind of ruined the fun of just enjoying things. You mentioned about how, not knowing when the next season is going to come. Well, we do know there will be a 5th season of The Bear. That news came out yesterday, I believe. But we don't, obviously, given how the show ends, we don't know, last 4 years has been very consistent. Like I said, every June we've had a season of The Bear. The stars of The Bear are very popular. We have Jeremy Allen White is going to play Bruce Springsteen, I think this fall. Ebon Moss-Bachrach is going to be the Thing in Fantastic Four First Steps, which comes out in less than a month. Ayo Edebiri is in numerous things. Lionel Boyce is in the upcoming movie with the Ryan Gosling. The trailer just dropped a couple days ago. I don't know if y'all saw it. It was really cool. Operation Hail Mary. It's about like it's like an astronaut deal. Like looks like The Martian, but kind of a different twist on that kind of story. Anyway, needless to say, Liza Colón-Zayas, she's going to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is filming very soon for next July. So all these people are involved in these big projects. They've got all kinds of things going on. I wonder, are we going to see all of our favorite cast members return to this show, and when will this show return? Tristan, do you have any kind of, not that you would have insight on that, but like, how would you feel like next season if Carmy is like only in a couple episodes, or maybe the Bear becomes a different kind of show? Like what? Because obviously this show has been about Carmy, like you said before, but could you see that changing in season 5? I think we might have some. Marcy, do I still have you?
A little lag, excuse.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think I think Tristan might be back. Looks like he's okay. Tristan, you there?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to come back.
Okay, yeah. Got a little internet issue. We'll get back to that. Marcy, what do you think about the show as far as the future of it? Do you see everyone returning and it just being like the continuation of the story? Which, by the way the season ends, Carmy is going to quit the Bear, which honestly surprised me. Even though there were like signs pointing to that in some ways, I didn't think he was going to like flat out just quit the restaurant.
Yeah, I'm glad I rewatched most of the season again today to prepare for this show, because there were things that I had missed in my first watch, but I do think everybody will be back, and I'm hoping it is still dropping maybe June of next year. But I think maybe we will see Carmy in a different role. Like he told Sid at the end of this episode, again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the end, don't stop, go watch it and then come back. He said, like, you're the bear, right? Like the bear isn't about me and I can leave and like that's fine. Maybe they keep the restaurant open and they're still trying to go for the star, and maybe Carmy is kind of in like a consultant capacity. But more than that, I think Carmy is just ready to not do that, because again, like Sugar said, when you left to go to New York, you loved it so much and you had that passion. And now as he's been, again, sorting his own shit out and trying to, make amends with people, he's realized like, this isn't what I love anymore. Maybe because I've put too much pressure on myself. Maybe because I just have external pressure. I don't love this anymore and I shouldn't be doing it if my heart's not in it. So I'm thinking we will see Carmy again in season 5, but I would not be surprised if Carmy isn't part of the restaurant and he's just maybe trying to do something else that he loves, or trying to find something that he loves. But yeah, I think Carmy will be back. I don't think we've seen the last of him, and I don't think he'll be in a reduced capacity.
Yeah.
It's on a bigger scale. Like just from the interviews I've seen, they love making that show.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it takes them to actually film this. So again, we're getting episodes, we're getting new seasons every year essentially.
Right.
So like they film pretty much in a central location in Chicago. It's not like there's a ton of traveling that needs to happen. So I see no reason why we wouldn't. I 100% agree with Marcy that we'll see Carmy. I think we'll see Carmy in a capacity outside of the Bear. Like you said, just kind of working on Carmy, maybe rediscovering that love for cooking, like in a different lens, different environment. Just kind of living life and like making cooking, be the secondary part of his life instead of like the end all be all, and just kind of see how that works. But I definitely think we'll see him. I don't think we may not get Carmy in every episode. Out of 10 episodes, we may get him, 6 or 7. Like I can see that, but I definitely think we'll see pretty much everybody. Like again, this is a show you can tell like it's a great atmosphere. Like it's something that they're going to remember forever. Like it's just one of those shows, right? Like it's not just popular because it's popular. It's popular because of what it represents and who it represents. So I definitely can feel the optimism for them to continue to keep this thing going at least for one more season. I think we'll probably talk about this at the end, but man, they've set themselves up for like two major ways that they can land this plane if they decide to end it in season 5 and it'd be perfect. So on a personal side and on the restaurant side. So
yeah. We talked about this last year when we did our season 3 review, where I said something where I thought this show is a show like back in the day, like a la Cheers or something, that would have lasted for 10 years. And I don't think it's going to last 10 years, but it is a show that can morph and can change. And, like the first 4 seasons have been the Carmy story. Like his nickname is Bear, but like he's like the restaurant is the Bear. He called Sid, he said, "You're the Bear," meaning she's the full, embodiment of the restaurant. She's the natural leader. She's the one that really cares, who's totally 100% in it. And at this point he's not. But I have to say, I was surprised by that ending because you could see him kind of stepping back, Carmy. But the fact that he just like is going to quit, that really surprised me. Marcy, any more stuff you want to mention about the final episode, or just we're going to jump around, but like just that kind of realization that he was going to be out after this has been his life, and it's been his escape from his family, and now it's like he wants to discover a different part of his life. But I was honestly thrown for a loop because I thought like this is what he does. Like Sid says he's one of the best in the world, and now he's going to step away from that.
When I rewatched again today after his conversation with Claire, at first, obviously, when I watched the finale yesterday, again, I was also kind of shocked. Like, wait, what? You're leaving? But then when I rewatched the episode where he's having that conversation, I think it's episode 3 or episode 4. I think he really realized how much he had lost out on with me, not only Claire, but maybe other people in his life, again, because he hadn't figured out his shit and he doesn't know how to have relationships, even though he wants to, right? Like he's not aloof and he's not reserved because he wants to be. I think he really wants those relationships and those connections. He just doesn't know how to do it because it hasn't been modeled well for him. But I think when he had that conversation, that fight with Claire, and it wasn't just like them fighting, they were just trying to get each other to understand where the other person was coming from. I think that really like made it clear for him. And that's why immediately after that, he calls Pete. He's like, "Hey, I want to revise the agreement." So right. I'm not surprised now that I've seen it all the way through and then I saw that scene again. I definitely think he wants to be able to work on himself enough to be able to not only have these relationships, but being able to move forward professionally as well when you are whole and you are healed. So I'm excited to see him possibly in a new capacity. I think he would be a great counselor because he's really good at listening to people and then trying to give the best advice that he can. But again, that episode starts with the NA meeting, and he's just listening to this woman tell her story about her relationship with her brother who is an addict. And at the end, they show like his face, and he has so much empathy, and it looks like he is so moved by that story. And so I was like, Carmy, are you going to become some kind of volunteer counselor for NA or AA meetings? So we'll see what happens with Carmy.
I was just shocked. I thought he was just gonna like actually speak. Like, like a counselor might be ambitious. I was like, man, are you gonna like actually share yours? Like, I was waiting on that, but totally agree. Like, I actually there was a small part of me that thought that Carmy was headed for like a heel turn, like after he left Claire, and like maybe the agreement was like, hey, it's just me, it's fuck the big 3, it's just me. But it was a very natural ending to me. Like once you kind of like everything Marcy said, you just kind of consider the pattern that had been going with him. Like you can see a clear drive to be a better person, a better Carmy, a better brother, friend, boyfriend, whatever the case may be, more open, more communicative. I think you can also see at the same time, like it's two trains about to collide, where he's seeing like, hey, cooking has been my entire life, and I just haven't developed these skills yet, and I don't know if I can develop those skills while also trying to be not just the best chef in the world, but like the best restaurateur in the world. And like I need to, one thing is going to eat, it's going to swallow the other part whole. So it's like, hey, I think it made sense for him to at least have the vision of stepping away. Can Carmy step away? You know, I think is the major question going into season 5. Can he actually step away?
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
I was just gonna say, I wonder also how much he's motivated or inspired by Chef Terry last season, being able, and she walked away from a successful restaurant, right? Like, she wasn't just walking from a restaurant that was like doing no business or that like the critics hated or that nobody went to. So I'm wondering if he was like, if Chef Terry can do it, I can definitely do it, because this is a lot of pressure and I don't need this pressure anymore. And if she can walk away, I can walk away. I don't know if he was thinking about all that, but it's a good little, parallel.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a very interesting arc for his I mean, for the 4 seasons, but for his season to end that way. And so from the end of the season, let's go back to the beginning, because the way season 3 ended, we got the Chicago Tribune review. And last year we talked about like, okay, well, what do we think? It's, I think we all kind of thought it's probably a mixed kind of review, just given the words that we saw that they would flash to. Well, now we actually know that it was a mixed review. It's probably mixed negative more so. Like the headline is Bare Necessities Missing. The bear stumbles with culinary dissonance. And in that, which we at the beginning of the episode or beginning of the season, everyone is pretty much obsessed with this review, and it's kind of overtaken them. And you get to see, you get the positives. The food's great, and the beef window is killing it. The beef, and we're going to talk about Ibrahim and his potential franchise that he's going to be opening in season 5. But you also see stuff like the menu's crazy and the place is chaotic, and chaos is this overarching thing that's like just it engulfs Carmy's whole life, or has, and that's part of what the start of the season that I thought the review, I thought it kind of held too much weight to me. I thought like it kind of like it's like, I, as a former journalist, I appreciate that you're really giving weight to journalism, but like I don't know that now in 2025 like a mixed review is going to really put you down if you're doing really well, which the business side of it seemed like they were. I mean, they had people in the restaurant, so I granted they're spending money like crazy, and they have a crazy budget for flowers and all kinds of stuff, and they've got too big of a staff. But I guess, Marcy, what'd you think about how the review was such a focus going from the finale of season 3 to the opener of this season?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, is that the only review that they were ever thinking that they would get, right? Like it felt like they were hinging so much of it on just this one review that they were reading from an actual tangible newspaper. That's what I was like, wait, like who still buys newspapers? Like, let's be honest here. I don't think I've bought an actual newspaper in over 20 years, probably. So that I found a little odd. It's like, come on, why do you have the actual newspaper? But this day and age, again, you're right. Like, yeah, a critic review may be important, but what's also really important is what people are saying, what's on social media, what are like all these influencers doing or saying. And it would have been interesting to also have a little bit more of that, rather than like, oh, just like this one review is going to make or break us, and that determines everything.
Yeah, in 2025, like that should be like a series of TikTok reviews, like Yelp or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like again,
Keith Lee, is that the guy that does the restaurant reviews? Keith Lee, is that who it is?
Keith Lee, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
like that would be the thing that would, have that big of an impact. Like, again, as a former journalist as well, I appreciate it. This dying industry. But yeah, I also felt like this in season 3, like that review held a little bit too much weight. I think I understand if you're looking at it from like a restaurant world type of thing. Like, yeah, I'm sure they still kind of haggle over those things, especially if your aim is to get a star, right? Like those reviews, like specific reviews from specific publications should hold that much weight. So I get it on that part. It's just that's probably one slight miss where they could have explained it a little bit more for the audience, because to a big part of the audience is like, why should I care about this review? Like, what's the connection between, what you're trying to build with this restaurant and this review? They do some job of explaining it, but like not enough for us to care about it as much as I think the show wants you to care about it. But it does drive it. They need something to kind of signal that there's an imminent danger for the restaurant, right? And that review does become like the vehicle for, hey, we have this clock now. We need to look at, hey, we're doing well financially, but like, we don't know how much of this is sustainable. So like, hey, as businessmen, and if we go back to like previous years, like Unc, and we see Computer in season 3, but Unc is kind of letting us know that he's having like financial issues in other avenues of his portfolio. So like that's also hanging over, and that's driving the decision. So they needed to get us to a point to see, oh, we have this clock now. Like, this is what we're racing up against, right? As we, start looking ahead to season 5, like the clock is gone, and there's another thing for them. There's a couple of other things for them to chase, but like the beginning of this season, I think does a good enough job of like setting you up, like, hey, this is the mouse that we're chasing. Right? Like, it's like not just getting through this clock, but like making sure that we have a sustainable way to like make a profit, despite like some of this more minor success that they're having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of the clock, I want to talk about a character that doesn't have much of a run in this season. And she had maybe I think the best episode of season 3. And that's Tina, where she is the character that is solely, I mean, her whole arc in this season, if you want to call it that, is devoted to the fact that this pasta dish that she made came out a little bit too slow. And so her whole season is, I've got to get under 3 minutes. And then, later on she gets some help when the Luca, Will Poulter's character returns, and he works with them for a few weeks, and he kind of, encourages her in the right way. And then she nails it. But like, that was pretty much her whole season. And so, you wonder with season 5, if someone like Carmy takes a step back, a back seat potentially, maybe we get more of these other characters back into the forefront. It's more of a balanced situation.
Can we talk about Tina as representative of a larger thing that's happening with the characters this season? I actually think, like, again, as far as screen time, that's something I noticed throughout the season. Like, we're not really getting a lot of Tina, but like, the Tina that we get is so symbolic of like the growth that so many of the characters are trying to make, that it feels like her character presence is larger than what it was. Because what is the overarching message of her trying to get that pasta right, as far getting it fast and getting it right at the same time? Is like the whole season is about personal growth, right? The main character is going through like a major transformation personally, right? Like, without therapy. You're like, and everybody else is growing around him. Even Natalie, like this beef that she had, one, becoming a new mother. Two, going through like all the emotions that comes with being a new mother, and then like this beef that she has with the fat sister. Like, all that these resolutions happen with this personal growth, and what we're seeing in the season is like the personal growth in these characters in real time, right? Ibrahim is like, how can I he's looking for literal growth, right?
Yeah.
Financial growth of the business, something that's working well, and he's still like striving and looking for like these areas to like make it his best, and not just kind of rest on the fact that hey, we're profitable, right? We're super profitable, so much so that we can start thinking about expansion. Like he's still looking for like areas of growth, and what I think all this growth between I think, let me wrap this up. This season took a minute to like let the characters go through those personal growths so they can reach their final form. And I think the characters are reaching, their final form as far as the show goes, at the same time where slowly the restaurant is reaching a final form. Like Carmi did all this bullshit, all this chaos, trying to like prove something. So much of season 3 was about him trying to prove something to people who've wronged him in the past and to himself, right? And to the people around him. That this whole season 4 is just about like settling into who you are and like growing that person instead of retreating so far into yourself to where you can't grow anymore. Like, so the restaurant, this is why I say season 5 has a chance to like really land it perfectly, because you have these parallel paths that are happening between the characters and the restaurant at the same time. And it's like, how can these characters and the restaurant reach their final form, reach their ceiling before time is up? So that's
that's
part
great.
of why I love the season so much, because it's just so much stuff happening, but it's really just two things happening parallel at the same time.
Yeah, and what you said, like you so eloquently kind of said that, and like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, it might just be we didn't see Tina because she had other stuff she was working on, and they could only get her in for two weeks or so. Like, and that might be part of it also. But like the way that the show is made so well, where you can have like what Tristan's explaining, where you have all these like, okay, the personal growth and the growth of the restaurant, and can it all kind of gel and come together at the right time. Or
I almost dropped a tear when she got that pasta under 3 minutes. Like that's great storytelling. Like, we barely saw her, but when I felt the growth. Like every time she couldn't get it right, I felt that. So when she finally did, I was like, God damn, go fucking Tina. Like,
Well, and speaking of another one of those moments, Marcy, I want to get your thoughts on it. Marcus. Now, Marcus didn't have a big season either, and he was a bigger part of season 3, from what I can remember this season. But he's not like featured a ton, but he has some pretty big moments. In fact, he wins an award. What do you think about that scene, or really Marcus's kind of run this season?
I loved that. I like that he's really settling into his role as a pastry chef and like trying new things, and it all just seems like very delicious. I was like, damn, like I wish I could try that. That looks so good. That thing with the violet. And he's just, I think he seems to be in such a good place too, with everything that's happened in his life, being able to sell his mom's house after she passed away, and then like contemplating like reaching out to his dad, who's been reaching out to him. So whenever Nat came in and said, like, one of our chefs has been, offered an award, everybody looked at Sid, and I was like, it's Marcus. I was like, it has to be Marcus. No offense to Sid, but I definitely think it's Marcus, because they've been showing us, that's who they've been showing us throughout the season, of like nailing their dishes and like actually spending time in the kitchen and cooking. So I was really excited for him. Like, maybe we won't see him in season 5 because he's leveled up, but I don't think so. I think he's loyal, and I think he'll stick with the bear if that's still around for next season. But I'm loving him, his transformation, and like his growth that he's had. And then also his just kind of like camaraderie with, I forgot the chef's name. Will Poulter's character, Chef
Luca.
Thank you, Chef Luca. I love that relationship, and like maybe like later on they can branch out and open their own restaurant.
Yeah, Tristan, your thoughts on Marcus and his? I mean, like when he got that award, you're right. That was like kind of a pretty emotional, kind of like fist pump moment.
Yeah, because we also see like his struggles. Like he wears his struggles. Like he is trying to live up to a standard that he hasn't even reached yet, right? And that's a struggle. Like, but seeing him, like Marcy said, settle into who he is, allows him to facilitate more growth, right? His growth was allowing for help, right? Like, hey, I need help, and like speaking that into existence. And then allowing himself to like move past the past, right? Obviously he has an estranged relationship with his father, but like that estrangement is like holding him back from potentially, building a better relationship with him and, going forward, especially this is his last remaining parent. But like seeing on both sides, like it didn't shock me because um like the work that he put into, like this is the payoff for Copenhagen, right?
Right.
And like him discovering like his passion and discovering that like the perfection that he's been looking for probably would never come, but like the fun is in like striving for that perfection. That's what allows him to keep his passion while Carmi is losing his, because like there's so much other stuff going on. But like as things are like kind of simplifying themselves in Marcus's life, professionally he got better. So like it is interesting to see going forward, how far he allows himself to have that relationship with his dad, and does he see that growth all the way through? But I think Marcus is it felt like there was a lot of Marcus, like like, but it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah,
But
right.
his presence, I would say, was still there.
Yeah, he was definitely, like, in the background, he was around, whereas with Tina, like, I honestly, I don't there's many, many episodes where I don't know we even saw her, so, like, that was kinda strange for me, but a character that kinda stepped to the forefront this season was Ibrahim, and the fact that the beef window is doing very well, and so well, they've got a robot delivery, guy who they're a little robot who's delivering the Italian beef sandwiches. He's got his crew of guys, and, but again, like you said before, Tristan, he's like, he's looking to create more opportunity, and he's looking for a mentor. He meets this guy, Albert, who's played by Rob Reiner, and this guy becomes like his guru, and eventually we see the idea of, "Hey, this needs to be a franchise." And later on, we see Albert talking to computer, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't disagree. That's a good idea." So I don't be surprised if the beef becomes a franchise in season 5. Marcy, what do you think about Ibrahim, who, he was, this year he's a main cast member, like, listed on the show, whereas in the past he was kind of a recurring guy who we saw him sometimes. He was one of the members of the team, but never was he in the forefront. What did you think about his journey in this season?
I really enjoyed seeing more of his character and, again, more of his growth, because in the previous seasons, again, they'd sent him to culinary school with Tina and he just didn't want to finish. And he had that really beautiful scene, I think, with Carmi when he's like, "Hey, whenever I quit culinary school, like nobody like looked for me." And then Carmi's all apologizing, saying like, "Hey, you are part of the team." And Ibra's like, "Yeah, like I know that's not the issue. Like my issue is that I just want to find something that I want to grow in. And like I have something that I'm working towards and I would really love to show it to you when it's ready." So I loved how he was able to motivate himself, right? Like he didn't need any external motivation from anybody else. He was like, "Hey, this is something I want to do for myself and for the beef." So I have loved his journey, and watching this season, I was also thinking, wow, I would love to see a whole episode about Ibra and the beef and the beef crew, because they also seem like very interesting characters. And I'm glad we got to see a little bit more of this season, but I would love to explore more of their characters next season, because it's a really great and cool and fun dynamic that they all seem to have, not only with each other, but with the rest of like the beef crew. So yeah, it all just seems fun. And they even have a robot now. I think his name is like Chucky, I think. Yeah. It. So man, I really want one of those sandwiches. They make them sound and look so good.
Don't let FX hit us, because they will spin off.
That's true. You're right. They will definitely do that. Yeah.
They smell money over there with this show. Yeah, man, like I loved how they let Ibrahim step up in the season, right? Like and actually call it out, like, hey, like I haven't gotten the same attention even though this thing is working over here, like, and that speaks to like the disconnect that Carmi is having with like the entire the whole forest, because he's so focused on these trees and like, making sure that he does these things that he feels like are necessary to get this star, instead of like, what are the things that actually work? What are the things that like actually work as a soul of the bear? And Ibrahim and the beef essentially is the soul. Like it's where they started. Like, this is the thing that got it off the ground. And the show, I think, does a subtle job of like illustrating that the further they get away from the soul of it, like,
Yeah.
the worse everybody is off. Like, every time you try to change the menu to this thing, what do we see that made customers the most happy in this season? It was a damn beef sandwich, right?
Yeah.
Like, cut up, put in, the ambiance is great and everybody's in suits, but like ultimately what people are coming here for is like great food and something that hits the soul. And I think that's the final form of this restaurant, is like they're moving towards it, making sure the menu is stagnant, making sure that we recognize and make each experience for each customer like a special one, and not just worrying about fucking reviews. Like, that's like looking at first week sales. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're not like, what is touching people? You know what I'm saying? And like, how do we touch people through the food? And I think that's where the beef was when Carmi started there. Like, it might have been shitty, horribly run, financially, insolvent, sure to fail, but like, it touched people. It made people feel things. Like, you mentioned Tina's episode in episode 3, season 3, which is one of the greatest anythings anybody's done, right? The whole part of it was like, hey, this place saved me and became something like that touched my soul. Like, so Ibrahim and the beef crew, like, especially for the people who love to complain about the show and it's not funny enough, you got all the humor right there. Like, all the super testosterone, super male shit talking like that, we love in season 1 is there. Like, that's the soul of the show, right there for the most part. So, I love the Ibrahim arc, and especially because it's symbolic of a larger message that the show is telling about like how far we stray away from like the core of who we are to like try to impress something outside of our community, or to get these extrinsic rewards like a star, something that's hard as hell to get in the first place.
Right.
But like, how far are you willing to get it? How far are you willing to sacrifice your soul to get these rewards, to get these things? And maybe this is a meta commentary on the show itself. Like, this season was funnier than season 3. Right. As funny maybe as season 2, definitely not as funny as season 1, but I feel like they made a point to like kind of get back to the core, like a lot of the more humorous moments and less of the kind of super prestige dramatic moments. So big fan of Ibrahim in this season.
Like you said, it's almost like the show and the restaurant's coming full circle. Like, maybe the bear morphs back into the beef, because that's what is doing the business, and that's what people go to that place for, is for those Italian beef sandwiches. And speaking about the beef, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the very first scene from this season, which I do think is one of the better scenes of the season. And it is our only scene, our once a year scene with John Bernthal as Mikey. And Marcy, I want to get your thoughts, as, like I said, the season opens with this flashback to before, another time where we see Carmi pitching the idea to Mikey, like, hey, let's start a restaurant. That's what I want to do. What'd you think about that opening scene?
I'm glad we did get to see Mikey, because I wondered, are we going to see Mikey? John Bernthal is another actor that's been super, super busy lately.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we'd see him again. I really liked this scene too. I think it really sets up what we see from Carmi throughout the season, which is him just kind of getting back to family in a way, and being able to think about them and think about Mikey again without some of that shame that he was feeling, or that anger, or whatever he had been feeling. And I think that also helped him remember, like, I wanted to do this with my brother because it was something that I would love, and because like restaurants make you happy. And, you know, I think that probably factored into his decision, him remembering that conversation, and was like, hey, the restaurant isn't bringing me joy anymore. And I wanted to open a restaurant because that's what brings people joy. So I think that was a very important scene for this whole season. And damn, I wish we got more Mikey flashbacks, but I also think this could have been a great show if it had been centered on Mikey, right? Like if Mikey didn't die and it was just like a show about the beef and that crew, I think that could have also been a really great show as well.
You know, that's a really interesting thing to say, because like I had never really thought about that, but you're right. That would have been a great show unto itself. It could have been, this could have been a 10 season thing where it's like the beef, the bear, the beef, like it could have kind of morphed even in the title in some ways. Tristan, with that conversation or in that flashback, we get the revelation, although it's not really a big revelation, that ultimately Mikey's the one who named the restaurant the Bear, because Carmy wanted to call it Mikey's after his brother, and Mikey just says, "I think I have a better name." And then the season starts after that. What do you think about the flashback, and just that's the way that we get going into this year?
I looked at it a totally different way. I like everything Marcy said was correct. Like it did kind of foretell like him getting back to family, like them making a point to talk about the restaurant that their dad loved to go to and how they remember it differently, because Carmy was younger. He's a lot more distant than Nat and Mikey to a lot of things that their father was doing, like those experiences. Like Mikey just didn't know his father like that.
Yeah.
And it talks so much about like it helped us to illustrate how much Carmy does not know about his family, because he's always been Carmy. He's always been the gifted one who's away doing this, into his passions. But another thing that scene kind of showed us was like, even though Carmy is like trying to fulfill his dream, like he's talking about starting this restaurant with Mikey and he's so enthusiastic, at the same time he's taking his eye off what he should be doing, right? Like he's stirring this sauce, but like he stops so much so that Mikey is like anal about it. He's like, hey bro, like stir, like I can hear it sticking. Like, so it's kind of like these dual things, like you have the ambition, but like do you have the same attention to detail, right? Because there's so many distractions, family, love, this thing that you have never really been able to like really engage in, because you haven't seen it really play out. You don't have the reps with love, so like there's all these distractions and he's literally getting distracted from doing the thing that he's supposed to do. And it's like, for season 4, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to be this world-renowned chef who's starts this upscale restaurant in his hometown of Chicago that gets this star? Or is he supposed to be Carmy, who has this life that he loves, like these people around him that he loves to be around, and he's making this food because it's a representation of family, right? It brings the family together. And I think so this season showed like how, or really all 3 seasons prior, that he hasn't really been super focused in either one of those goals and either one of those aims. So like season 4 is about like him bringing those 2 passions together. One, rediscovering the passion for family, right? Whereas season 5 might be about him discovering the passion for cooking, and like, again, bringing those 2 worlds together. But I thought it was an insightful one. Again, this is the only time we see Mikey, but we don't have to see Mikey. Mikey lives in damn near every character in this show. But like, that's a very powerful way to set up not just the season, but this continuous cloud that Mikey hangs over the restaurant and the characters, and of course like his family, especially like his mother. Like, contrast that episode, that flashback with Mikey with the conversation that he has with his mother, right? Like that's a clear full circle thing. And oh boy, I dropped a few. So I don't know if we're talking about that now, but I dropped a few. So like I said, it was a very important flashback again, we don't have to continuously see Mikey. He's
Right.
not Joel, like The Last of Us. Like, we don't have to keep seeing him over and over and over again because he never really dies in this show.
Because I think Carmi is wrong. The bear is not Sydney. Mikey is the bear. Like, he is the bear. And I also like this conversation because this season has like a theme about fathers that comes up a lot. He and Carmi talk about their father. Marcus has father issues of his own. Sydney deals with something with her dad. Richie is dealing with a lot of like fatherhood issues, which I thought was really interesting. I was like, oh, there's like a lot of like fatherhood themes. Whereas last season, there's like motherhood themes of like Nat like welcoming her baby and like getting to have her scene with her mom and like hashing out their stuff, and Marcus losing his mom. So it was just interesting.
No, yeah, really great point. Talking about dads and stuff. And speaking of that, let's talk about Sydney a little bit, because Sydney, we open the season where she is mulling the offer from Shapiro to basically run his restaurant, and it's a higher paying gig. It's obviously a more I don't know, exclusive kind of place. Maybe it's a more upscale place than the Bear, even though I think the Bear is probably way more expensive than I could afford. But then you also have the fact that she is very well could be a partner with the here at the Bear, and she has the tug of war between like loyalty or like, am I doing the right thing, am I not? And then in the middle we obviously have her dad has a heart attack, and that kind of wakes her up, and like kind of she's kind of stuck in a lot of ways, much like Carmi's kind of stuck in the early episodes. But then she has the thing happen with her dad. He goes to the hospital. Then she at the hospital, she Claire works at the hospital, and that kind of, in a lot of ways, that you can see it makes her feel better, and then that kind of brings Claire back into the picture, which obviously brings her back to Carmi in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of ways that this can go, but Sydney's season overall, like, what'd you think about how from point A to point B, from mulling the offer to now she, as Carmi says, is the Bear. What'd you think about her season, Tristan?
I thought it was a good wrap up from because they essentially just kind of brought the same conflict from season 3, which is, like I said, her mulling that offer, her kind of figuring out, what is her future. Like I said, does she stay with this thing that she's she's built? She's essentially put her soul into it, or does she go like the easy route? And I think so much of it is informed by what we saw a lot of in like season 2 and 3, which is like the failing restaurants around her, around them, the experience she had failing at, trying to start like a catering business, and how that continues to like wreck parts of her life. Like that's something that's hanging over her head. I thought we got to like I think a perfect conclusion to that, which is really no conclusion. There's no resolution. Like, she doesn't really officially say that she's staying. She continues to say like she's mulling that over, because important decisions like that don't just stop. Like the variables that lead to decisions like that don't stop, right? Like, you're continuously making these decisions. There's continuously things that are being thrown in front of you that affect the decisions that you make. And it's a stressful one, because I think she really believes in the Bear and like the mission of it and the core of the restaurant. And she obviously admires Carmi as a chef, and she obviously cares about him as a person, but like so frustrated with him as a leader. So like, but I think she's so comfortable in like being annoyed with him as a leader that she gets taken aback, obviously, by him putting it on her like, hey, actually, you're the soul of this. You are what this restaurant, should be. You're who should be leading it, right? Like, you have everything, the temperament, the talent, you have the leadership skill. Like, he just kind of goes through a whole CVV. But like, this is, I think, what the resolution for Sydney should have always been. This is essentially wrapping it up from like, this is why it's easy to believe that this could have been the series finale, because this is a complete juxtaposition from the beginning of season 1, where Sid is lost and she only looks at Carmi through like this lens of being a super fan, and not an equal, somebody who can, by the time we get to the finale of this season, who can call him out on all of his bullshit, right? Freely, like just vomit it all out and not hold things back, because one, you're trying to make this thing work, and two, this is somebody you admire. Like she had to go through that personal growth of, I'm at this particular time, I'm on your level, because while I may not be as talented as you are, I have all these other intangible things that help me be who I need to be for this restaurant. So everything about this was just her growth, like things she had to go through. Like she has to continue to kind of fumble through this decision. I feel like the decision's kind of been made for her, because she had to like accept that her soul is more important than like her security, right? That wasn't meant to sound more profound than what it was, but like her soul, like the bear is her soul, like,
Right.
and building that up is building herself up at the same time. So, what was again, this decision happens over the course of 2 seasons, but honestly, it was a decision that we knew that she was going to make, because ultimately, like Carmi said, she's the bear. Like this has all been building up to like her recognizing Carmi's not the only genius here. Like she shares in a lot of that herself, and like recognizing that as her growth.
Yeah, and I think one of her better moments of the season, and she had a lot of great moments, but was in episode 4, which is Worms is the title. It was actually written by Ayo Edebiri and Lionel Boyce, and we have a scene where she goes to her cousin's house. Her cousin then has to leave, and she's like, she leaves her daughter with Sydney, and Sydney and the little girl talk about, like, basically she comes up with a metaphor of like comparing this girl's like sleepover conundrum with her job like decision, like whether she's going to stay at the Bear or go to Shapiro's. Marcy, what did you think about that scene? Because for me, that one's like, when I saw that scene, I was like, okay, this is a really great show. Like this, because that whole episode's what was a Sydney episode. I don't know that we saw really anybody else. So what did you think about that episode and that scene specifically?
It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I loved that scene and just kind of like the metaphor and like relating it to like the pizza party and the slumber party and all of it in a way that like the cousin could understand, even though the cousin was like smarter and like knew what she was really talking about. But she wasn't just trying to explain it to her. She was trying to like work through her decision verbally for herself while trying to tell her little cousin about this. So I thought this episode was really good. We got more insight into Sydney, but she did kind of get on my nerves a little bit this season, because I was just like, just pick who you're going to work for and sign the damn contract, because as somebody who's worked in recruitment for a long time, just make up your mind. Which job do you want? Sign the damn contract. Like, come on, like you are getting way too much leeway. And I also like that she got to have that little moment with Claire at the hospital, because I think she saw Claire as some kind of a threat. Maybe like she wasn't aware of that, but she saw their relationship as a threat because she felt like it was pulling Carmi away. And like, even she told Carmi some stuff that got into his head and made him want to be like, hey, like maybe I shouldn't be in a relationship right now. But I think it really let her see that Claire is just somebody who also like cares about Carmi, cares about the Bear, cares about other people, and maybe like wasn't trying to be a distraction for Carmi. She's just a really good person and somebody that Carmi would want to be in a relationship with, because she is so comforting and so great. So I like that she was able to see that part of Claire without just kind of seeing her as some kind of a threat to the restaurant or her relationship with Carmi.
Yeah, what a great way to kind of connect characters that you don't think have any connection besides, I mean, obviously Carmi, but like you didn't really see a Claire Sydney scene really. I look at season 4, I wasn't going to go, oh, I can't wait to see the Claire Sydney scene where they bond, and you kind of see like what Carmi's like really messing up in his life. I mean, there's so many things that he's doing wrong, but it's like Claire's right there, and everyone around him knows how great she is, but he can't get himself to kind of face that.
There's so many forced conflicts, right? Like there's
Yeah.
Nat and damn, what is the fat sister name, man?
Francie,
Brie Larson.
Francie, yeah.
Francie Fact. Like this forced conflict. There's Richie and Carmi forced to have the conversation. Like there's so many, like Sid and what's my guy name? The other restaurant guy.
Oh, Shapiro.
Like it's like this. The show, the characters do so much dancing around each other.
Yeah.
Dancing around these things, like not being upfront with how they feel and when they're annoyed and bothered by things. They only respond really through like yelling and stuff like that. So like the subtle moments, the subtle conversations that you need to have that just like kind of sustain life. Like they avoid that so much, and it leads to these bigger problems.
Yeah.
So like again, so much character growth is in those forced conversations. Like I'm here now, we have to have this conversation. We have to get certain things out in the open. Or with Sid and Claire, it's just like we need to understand each other more and where each other fits in each other's lives or in this particular situation, who you are as a person. Like I think that helps them. Like I said, Sid not necessarily see Claire as a threat, but as another person someone who I admire, who I need to do these things. Like he needs her in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like just kind of understanding that. So yeah, I had to chime in on that.
And like you said, just kind of dancing around it, that led to another forced conflict, which was Richie and Frank, right? Like Richie had created like all this conflict in his head about Frank, and Frank probably had created his conflict around Richie. And once they were able again to like actually talk and realize like, hey, we're both dealing with like this heavy deal of, Frank's going to get married to my ex-wife, and now he's going to be a stepdad. And what does that mean for me as the dad? And then Frank seeing it from like the stepdad side. And like, I'm glad that they were able to show like a mature male relationship that wasn't about like, well, I'm just going to hate Frank because he's, going to marry my ex. And like, that's not healthy. And I love just seeing how they were able to talk through it, and great modeling of like adult relationships.
Yeah. And I think that it's great that y'all brought up this episode, because episode 7 titled Bears, we'll talk about what everyone's favorite episode is, but this was my favorite. I think it's kind of unfair because it's the one it's the longest episode. It's the one that's loaded up with all the guest stars and special guest stars people and all the cameos. But that's his whole like focus this season is Tiff's upcoming wedding and how he's basically avoiding it, not saying whether or not he's going to be there or not. He ends up going. He takes Sid like as an emotional support person to be there, by his side while he can try to get through this. And then we get to, I think, what is probably maybe the best scene of the season, which is the under the table deal where their daughter doesn't want to dance with Frank. She doesn't want to dance, period. And they end up getting under the table, almost every character, and the table it's like this table that gets bigger. It's like the circus or something. The circus tent just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you have like 15 or 20 people under the table talking about what they're afraid of in life and all their issues. And I don't know, to me, that's just a really great episode that was like just a classic. Like every year the bear, it was like what Fishes in season 2 and
Fishes.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was in season 3. It was, but every year they have one of these big episodes where, they bring all these people back. And we were introduced to Brie Larson as Francie Fact, which, by the way, I still don't really understand what happened between her and Suge. Like they were best friends, maybe somewhat lovers, but I'm not really sure like what happened, because they're just screaming at each other constantly until the very end. But I guess Tristan, start with you. What'd you think about Bears? Was it your favorite episode? And talk a little bit about that scene under the table.
Oh, it might have been my favorite episode. It's between that one and Sid's episode.
Okay.
I love, but I gotta rewatch, man. I don't even know. Like again, this season is kind of again the binge thing. Like it's felt like one long season that a lot of it kind of blend in. I had to kind of look at some of the titles, but another just kind of side note, another brilliant part of like the whole Richie and Tiffany Frank thing is that there's another thread for the show to pull on, another like carrot to kind of keep dragging is like, hey, they still haven't been to the restaurant.
Exactly.
So like there's a thing of like, when will Richie feel like the bear is good enough in its final form? You keep bringing it back. Its final form in order to allow them to come see that. Essentially, when is Richie going to allow, from kind of like beating himself up over like past mistakes with Tiffany, to like the acceptance of like, hey, she's moved on, and she hasn't just moved on, but she's moved on to a guy who's pretty awesome. Which should hurt worse, so like Richie has been kind of fighting that, and it's like at some point he has to allow them in to like this newer, better version of him that we've seen essentially since the Forks episode in season 2, right? Since his character arc changed. When will he finally allow them to see his full growth? You know what I'm saying? Pause. But so like, yeah, like the same parallel. But as far as the episode itself, it is a masterpiece episode, right? I love the device of, first we get Frank and Richie and god damn it, I'm forgetting all kind of names, and the daughter. Somebody will tell me her name.
Evie, I think, is her name.
Evie. Them three, and like it just kind of builds out, right? Like everybody, and it just kind of it plays on like how they use these cameos of like you said, like these characters have a substantial role in the overall story, even if we don't see them a lot. It's like, okay, you have these relatives who let Carmi stay on the couch, right? We don't have to see them all the time to know like how important they are to him, so on and so forth. But I thought it was just a beautiful episode. Like I said, it bringing in like the larger thematic things that we love about the show, but also like just the grounded humor. You're like having all these characters together, having Natalie and Francie yelling at each other, like having that a thing. You have the rom-com thing with Carmi and Claire, like just kind of coming back. It's so many elements of like great television packed into like one show, right? Having Evie all the way at the end be like, hey, you know what? I'll dance. And then we have our resolution, right? Like to like the smaller conflict amongst like these bigger conflicts that are happening at all points in this show. So I loved it. That's an episode I can't wait to rewatch.
Yeah, it's one of the ones I did rewatch. I think it's a masterpiece. Marcy, more about that episode. What did you think about the Bob Odenkirk appearance as Lee, which the last time we saw Lee, I believe, was the Fishes episode where Mikey is throwing throwing forks or knives or whatever at Lee, and then through his conversation with Carmi at this wedding, we learned that Lee did actually see Carmi at Mikey's funeral, which obviously is something that plays out later in the episode or later in the season. But also we find out that Lee and Mikey were kind of on better terms, or on good terms before Mikey's passing. What did you think about that scene and really just the whole episode?
I really think that was such a helpful interaction for Carmi, because at first, obviously, he thinks he's full of shit, right? He's like, okay, yeah, like you and Mikey, like we're cool. Okay, like I don't believe that. And he's like, no, seriously. Like, I mean, we weren't like best friends, but we would catch up and like Mikey would tell me what you were up to. And then Carmi was like, okay, like, what did he tell you about me? Right. Like really trying to make sure that he was legit. And he told him like all of these things that Carmi had done that Mikey was proud of and like was, wanting to tell people about. So I think that was really helpful for Carmi, especially also knowing that Lee saw him at the funeral and didn't tell anybody about it, right? Like he wasn't just gonna like rat him out and say like, oh, Carmi came and then he left. I think that was probably what also like just helped solidify Carmi's choice and like really helped him get to where he is at the end of the season, not only like wanting to walk away from the bear, but being open to going to his mom's house and sitting down with her and having a conversation with her. I think that was huge.
Yeah. No, that's actually the next episode, I believe, is when he goes to visit his mom. But Marcy, I want to get your thoughts on the under the table stuff because it's a very sweet scene that like it just keeps going and going, not in a bad way, but to me it was kind of funny, like how it's like, how big is this table? I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, 4 people, I got you. 12 people are under this table. I mean, it's multiple tables, I guess, but like it's just like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger as the scene progresses.
It got enormous. And at first I was like, okay, like, are they going to make this and just have it be just like kind of gimmicky? I was kind of like iffy about it at first when they just kind of started adding more people. But then I liked when they were talking about what their fears were. I thought that was so good for everybody to see. Like, everybody is afraid of something, right? Like, you like think that your fear is like the biggest thing in the world, and like nobody else is afraid, right? Like everybody else has their shit figured out and you're the only one who doesn't. And then they were able to see like everybody goes through shit and everybody is afraid of something and like it's all valid. So I loved that. And I loved how like everybody that came in, like Evie would just like be like, oh, like, hey, aunt so and like auntie so and so, even if it was somebody she had just met. Like I just thought that was just so cute. And just
So like she has a village.
yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Like it was like this village and everybody like knew each other and like welcomed each other, and it just felt so, it was such a warm scene for me.
Yeah.
So like not everybody doesn't just have fears. Everybody has fears that hold them back from something. And like that's a bigger part of what they were kind of sharing around, is like each one of those people were kind of speaking to like who their character was and like how, yeah, they everybody has these fears, but like ultimately everybody discussing their fears and confessing those fears helps Carmi, who's the main person who has these fears that are holding him back, allows him to like speak his into existence and like actually start doing something about it, and not just settle into like, I have these fears, this is who I am, this is how I grew up, this is how my family was. It's like, okay, now what do we do next? So it was an important scene that was just built around like very cute and very like very accessible humor, right? Like they didn't have to like have this super dramatic scene. It's like, hey, everybody talking about their fears in order to help, encourage or accept if Evie doesn't want to dance. Like,
Right.
I think it's very important to show that village. It's like, hey, it's not just Evie, but like Carmi, like you have a village. You have people that care about you. You have this wide network of people who you may talk to once a month or once a year, but like they still care about you and they're willing to make these sacrifices and to be that vessel for you to like open up to.
And also like I like that Tiff was able to see that, because she has like a very sweet moment with Uncle Jimmy when they're dancing, which like really hit for me. And she said, I was afraid after the divorce from Richie because I thought I was going to lose all of you, right? Like you, like I'm related to you through Richie, and I thought I was going to lose all of you, and like now all of you are here for my wedding when my own like flesh and blood family isn't here. And I thought that hit for me definitely, because I've experienced that when you're like, oh, like do I get to lose like all these family and friends because somebody else isn't in my life anymore? And I think that's probably a fear that a lot of people have. And I don't think I'd seen it expressed on TV lately. And I thought that was just such a good scene between two characters who aren't main characters, or even like they're just kind of like periphery characters, but they're also just like really important to the story.
Yeah. I think what Tristan said a little bit ago, like all these characters, like they feel like they're always a part of the story because you feel like you get their names dropped every once in a while. You only see them like once, in person on the screen, but like they're kind of always around. And for Tiff, that's a great point because her village is a village full of Berzadas. Like that's all of them are at her wedding. And I do like the kind of ongoing joke because not only as an audience member, but I like the fact that in the show you have all these guest stars and John Mulaney and all these people. and they're all calling each other cousin or whatever. And for me, it's like, okay, how are they related? And I love how, John Mulaney's character is like, they ask him like, how do you like, who is Lee? And he's like, I've met the man 9 times. I don't know how he's related. I don't really know much about it. Like, I love the call out to like how ridiculous the situation is, but also it's a pretty, it's a pretty sweet situation where you have all these people who were, some of them are blood related, some of them obviously aren't, but they all are a part of this family. I mean, with Richie and Carmi to be, I mean, they're not related, but they're closer than people who are blood related in a lot of ways. And that's kind of the point of the whole restaurant in the end. So and that's part of Donna's point whenever she's talking to Sid at the wedding about how like, your work family often is more your family than your family is. So um that wedding episode, just like I said, it's kind of unfair because it's built up to be like the best episode because it's got all the all the kind of storylines kind of have to intertwine. It's almost like an Avengers movie for the bear, but I did really enjoy that one. Marcy, I didn't get to ask you, do you have a favorite episode from the season?
I would say this is probably a contender. But also, and I forgot if it was episode 2 or 3, they get kind of blurry, but when Carmi went to like finally, like he had the balls to finally go and to Claire's house and just like have it out with her, because again, for people that say the bear isn't comedy, like that whole scene with what's his name? Fack, not Sammy.
What's his name?
Ted.
Say it again.
I think it's Ted.
Yeah, Ted.
Yes,
Yeah, Ted.
yes, thank you. Yeah. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? He sees him come to the door in a robe. And I had also forgotten about Kelly. So I was like, wait, what happened? And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm here with Kelly. And I was like, okay, crisis averted. But Ted's telling him about how he's so in love with Kelly and how it feels like he's in a Disney Channel original movie. And that I was hollering because that was just such a like funny line to throw out. But then also like Carmi comes in and he's like, which one? Right? Like, he's like motocross. So, huge fan of the Disney Channel original movies from the 90s. So that had me just hollering. But then him and Claire, like finally talking at each other, yelling at each other, but then being able to say what they really wanted and needed to say for the other person to understand that, and I'm glad Claire told him, like, this shit is hard for everybody, right? Like everybody hears all the noise and everybody gets overwhelmed by everything, and relationships aren't easy for anybody. Which I think Carmi probably thought it was just him, right? Like, it's just me. Like the problem is me, and I can't have any relationships with people. And that I think is also part of why he was like, you know what? I can walk away because I needed to get a handle on myself. But I thought that and the wedding episode are probably my two favorites.
Yeah, like they all kind of run together. Honestly, the wedding one to me is just such like it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. It's the longest one, and most people are in it. So go with that. You mentioned the facts a little bit ago, and I just want to point out, like, I thought we were kind of facts heavy in season 3. I thought it was a little bit too much. I think in season 4 is like the perfect amount where I thought they're all pretty funny. It was all pretty good moments. Like it was a nice sprinkling into those characters. As we kind of move through here, Tristan, I want to get your thoughts on some other kind of ancillary characters that were added this season. I'm not added this season, but added to the Bear team. That was the crew from Ever. We got Jess joining the team, Garrett and Renee from Ever. Richie brings them in to kind of, bring more structure to the Bear. What did you think about the addition of these characters to the team?
I mean, I thought I think they were added in perfect amount. Like they weren't just, it wasn't too much. Like they came in at the perfect time. Great timing on that. I've been shipping Jess and Richie from the jump. Like come on now. Like that is such a natural, like that shit just seems too easy, too obvious. Luca is just a great character.
Yeah.
Like he might be the most efficient character in the Bear. Like every scene he's in, like, has an impact. like whether it was through Marcus or Carmi, like he makes a significant impact on in every single scene that he's in. So yeah, I was a big fan of bringing him in. Like it also demonstrated one, like how desperate that the restaurant is, and for like more structure, and like perfect group to bring in. They already have the rapport with Richie and Carmi and Marcus. Like it just fit perfectly. Like you can see them staying on with the Bear as they go through this next season. So I was a big fan of it.
Yeah, Marcy, the team up factor, we get to see these people from these other restaurants that, like Luca returns and he's working there for 3 weeks. We have the Ever crew join. It is kind of like an Avengers kind of team up of the previous seasons. What do you think about the additions to the staff this year?
I liked it, and I wonder if that had originally been maybe like part of their longer term plan, or if they were added because people had like really liked those characters in the last season, and they were like, oh, like it would be great to bring them back. Because at first I was like, wait, how many more people are they going to be able to find to bring back in some way? Because I was like, okay, Luca's back as a stage, like he has nothing but like world-renowned chef that's worked at like some of the best restaurants. Like he's got nothing better to do. And then they kind of explained it that he wanted to stay in Chicago for a little bit. And then the crew from Ever, I was like, this makes sense because they just lost their jobs. Like, again, like very difficult business to be in. Like one day you are working at this, again, world-class restaurant. Ever did have a Michelin star, right? Like working in a restaurant that has a star.
Yeah.
And now you're out of a job, and now you're at the Bear that doesn't have a star. It just got like a lukewarm review. So I want to see a little bit more of them because I really liked, they had a little bit more screen time, it feels like, during like the Forks episode, and then some episodes in season 3. So big fan. And I think that's also part of the team that could help the restaurant get the star if they do continue with it. And yeah, I'm with Tristan. Like, I was so disappointed that Richie did not invite Jess to the wedding as his date. I was like, come on, Richie, that was a missed opportunity. What are you doing? But I think they will get there because you can definitely tell that she likes him, at least. Like, it is very obvious.
Yeah, that's something that, they'll probably save for season 5 to kind of get into that. Speaking of kind of the Ever crew and like their impact on Richie, I want to talk about one of the kind of the sweeter moments, which maybe not most realistic moment of the show, but there's a part in I think it's episode 3. Yeah, it's episode 3 where they have this like cancer survivor that's there, and I think it's like summertime in Chicago, and this girl wanted to like experience like snow in Chicago, and so they kind of create this like final course, this final course. It's like snow themed where they have snow raining down outside, and they kind of dress up the exterior of the Bear. And I feel like that's something that Richie kind of saw, that Ever could pull off these miracles, and they'd order pizza and do this crazy stuff and make cut it up into the most intricate artistic thing you could possibly ever see. I feel like that was kind of that crew rubbing off on him. Tristan, what did you think about that scene, and just kind of like going the extra mile to make a customer have like a moment they'll never forget?
It's one of my favorite scenes of the whole entire season because it demonstrates a couple things, maybe more. One, keep talking about like the soul of the restaurant, right? Like the soul of the restaurant is how it connects people with food, like how it connects experience with food. Not when it's trying to make the fanciest, most elegant meal, but it's like, what do people love? Because that's what keeps people coming back. It's like what touches the soul. And it comes after Richie is just like dejected, right? Because like there's just days where you just don't feel like you're getting it right. You don't feel like you're being as good a leader as you kind of project in your mind. And he was presented with an opportunity. He was to like make this experience good for somebody. Like he was presented with the dilemma. He was solution oriented, and like he used a lot of like you said, like the Ever crew is rubbed off on him, his experience there, obviously. But like Richie also just has like the natural charm. So like when you combine those two things together, you get innovation, right? Like, okay, what resources do we have they made it happen. And then he was able to use that charm to like really illustrate that experience for that family. Like that was one of my, because it demonstrated like the best of everybody, like just understanding, like using the resources that you have, being really efficient with those resources. They didn't have like actual snow, obviously. So like,
Yeah.
what do we have? How can we use that to our advantage? And that has been what's kept the Bear afloat, you know, both spiritually, financially, tactically, you know, since they opened. But yeah, that was one of my absolute favorite moments. That's a standout moment from this season for me.
Yeah. Marcy, you talk about that scene, but or also just, is there any other scene that we haven't talked about you want to kind of highlight?
I can't think of any, but yeah, they really made it seem like that guy in the next table over was going to be important. Like maybe he is a reviewer too. So I'm hoping in season 5 they'll just kind of explain, or I wonder if he was with the awards committee that awarded Marcus his award. But they really made it a point to be like, okay, like this guy's watching everything and he's really like impressed by it. So like singling him out was a choice. And I think they wanted us to be like, oh, he's going to be somebody important.
Yeah, you know, that's a good. I remember when I watched it the first time, I kind of thought the same thing, and then I completely like glossed over it the next time. I just didn't even wasn't I was thinking about all the characters that we know and that, you know, mattered to the story. But you're right, that's something that there could be a payoff for that in an upcoming season. Tristan, is there any other scene that we haven't talked about that you think we should maybe shine the spotlight on, or anything that?
We could talk about my number one scene.
Okay, what's your number one scene? Go for it.
Which is Carmi and his mother.
Okay, there you go.
At the house. It was just an emotional scene because for me, you could kind of see, you know, like when you have so much trauma that's been built up and it becomes like a blockage to like personal growth, and you can see like a lot of that wall breaking down in him as his mother, who he's worked so hard to avoid because she reminds him of the trauma that he grew up with and everything. And I don't know how much of him blamed her for like Mikey, like how Mikey became who Mikey was, because that addictive trait, you know, passed on. I don't know, but like for Donna Brazato represented so much trauma for Carmi that it sent him all over the world. Like he just had to get away from like not just her, but like that family and that environment. But just seeing him kind of crumble as she talked about how much she loves him, and like she just continuously apologizes, and you could tell like that was something he didn't even know he needed to hear. But like hearing it is like medicine for the soul, right? Like, oh my God, that word again, soul. Like you could see his soul healing in like real time. And seeing him like just start progressively dropping those tears because it's something he needs to like move on to like the next phase of his life. I don't think Carmi could move on and could become whatever it is he's going to be in season 5 and beyond without hearing that from his mother. You know, like everyone, not just him, but not just her, but like Nat, like affirming these things that he needs to hear, like Natalie hugging him at the end, like forgiving him. You know, I don't even say forgiving him. Like when he tells her, like, "Hey, I was at the funeral." Like that's another weight that's been lifted off of him, and like there's so many burdens on him. And like I said, it starts. I don't even know if it starts there, but like it's crystallized at its highest level in that conversation with his mother and him. Again, going to like fix her dinner, right? Like kind of redefining his own connection to food. So the last 3 seasons have been about using his love of food to like build his restaurant up, to like prove these things, to get these extrinsic rewards. And it's like actually the thing that he loves most about cooking is like its affinity and its connections to like family, right? Like that's where the love began. So I think he's on like this slow march to like redefining what food means to him, what cooking means to him. And I think having that scene there, having that conversation and that quality time really with his mother is going to be the catalyst of him finding his way back to food.
And that scene of him cooking and her just kind of like sitting there watching him, it was such a like great like foil or juxtaposition to Fishes, where she was cooking and it was all chaos and like yelling and no peace. It was just insane, to this moment now where it's just the two of them in the kitchen, you know, and she's like, hey, Carmi, aren't you going to like wash the chicken? Like you're gonna, you know, you got to wash the salmonella off. And he's like, if you do, then you're gonna get salmonella all over. And like in Fishes, like that could have turned into like this whole like shouting match and argument. And here it was just like, oh, like it doesn't need to be an argument. It doesn't need to be back and forth. Like he can just tell you that he's not going to wash the chicken. And like, she didn't like say anything back. And that was such good growth on both of their parts that they were able to be like, okay, like, great. Like, we don't need to like start shouting about if you're going to wash the damn chicken or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good stuff. That was the penultimate episode, which, you know, led us into the finale. Marcy, I want to stick with you for a second because I want to talk about one of the characters we haven't mentioned at all, and that is the music of the bear, because I do think that the music does play a huge role in this show. What did you think about the music that we heard in this season?
I loved it. It much more mellow than definitely season 1 and then the first couple of seasons. Again, it just, the music did such a good job of like illustrating how this was a much more mellow season than the previous ones have been. Obviously, we didn't have an episode like Fishes where people are throwing forks and knives. And I think it, again, like reflects the mellow and the peace that Carmi wants to get to, because all he knows is chaos. So I loved the choices in the music, and I just love how they used music to, again, like paint this mood for us of what the season is and what maybe like Carmi is trying to achieve. But no, I loved it.
And I think the music works well with like the humor that was being thrown in, like just kind of like I said, like just those mellow tracks that kind of played underneath the humor. It just worked perfectly. Like you said, like the music in season 4 reminded, without the same anxiety of like season 1, it reminded me of season 1, where it's kind of introducing you like this family vibe, with some chaos kind of interspersed there. There's not really a ton of chaos in season 4, right? I think the music reflects that, so I mirror Marcy on that.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to point out. I did like how, you know, I think I don't know this for a fact, but I know there were several songs at the end of the season that were songs that we heard in other seasons, and I kind of like how they sprinkle them in. And it kind of made me, again, this is when when I'm watching this for the first time, I'm thinking this is the final season. So we start getting these songs in back-to-back episodes that are songs that were kind of staples of the show. And I'm thinking, oh, they're gearing up because they're going to say goodbye, because that's the title of the finale. But obviously happy to see that we're getting to season 5. But I do love the music of the bear. I think it's been a kind of a a hidden character that does a lot of heavy lifting in certain moments. I mean, you think back to season 3, the first episode was just kind of an elaborate music video. You know, there's this music playing, there's no dialogue. We're seeing Carmi in these different stages of his life, and we're hearing all these songs that kind of would go on to be part of the other seasons of the show. So music's very important in this show. Is there anything that y'all want to mention that we haven't really talked about? Marcy, do you have something that's you want to get out there?
No, I just love that it seems like he's on the right track with Claire. I think she could be good for him and they could be good for each other. And I just love a good love story. And I love just the village aspect, like you all have mentioned. Like it feels, this season just felt nice for my heart over like seasons 2 and 3, which were like, oh my God, this is making me anxious to watch it. Now it's like, oh, like I feel this show makes me feel nice now when I watch it.
I hope that Carmi's re-emerging love will like open it up to Claire will be at least it will show him that he can do it, right? Because I think that's what he was trying to explain to her. It's like I just never considered that I could love somebody, right? And I think Carmi's lost his love for cooking a long time ago. Like I think you talked about the premiere of season 3. I think that's what it's showing us is like him losing that love, right? Because you're getting berated, like or like these different experiences um where he didn't have as much pressure, right? Where he could just kind of pick fruit from a garden and stuff like that. Like that's where he found the love. Like it's in the details, it's in like the small things. But like in every other portion, like working at these big restaurants didn't really bring him happiness, right? It became something that technically on a technical level, skill wise, like he was becoming great,
Yeah.
but he was, like I said, losing that love at the same time. So I think he lost that love way before they opened up this restaurant, probably way before he came back to Chicago. So like hopefully Claire is kind of like that guiding light of like, hey, if I can love this person on a day-to-day basis, I can rediscover like what it is I'm actually here for with this food. And not just to be like a restaurateur, not just to get a star, but like how can I make other people's lives better emotionally and how I treat them, like how I interact with them as family, as friends, and how I serve food. So I think that's the full circle moment for Carmi, and can't wait to see how that looks in season 5.
You bring up such a good point. I also agree that maybe he fell out of love with cooking a long time ago, maybe even before he came back, and maybe it seems like it's so easy for him to walk away because he only opened the restaurant because he wanted to do it for Mikey, right? Like they said that they would open the restaurant together, and like now that he's done it, and now that he has all the weight off of like, yes, you like went to Mikey's funeral and it's okay that you left. Like that was difficult. Like you don't have to carry the shame of that, of people thinking that you didn't go. I think maybe that's what makes it easy for him to be like, okay, like I can walk away because I did this for my brother and now like I can move on.
Yeah, I think we kind of said this a little bit, but it seems like he used cooking and food as like a way to hide from the rest of his life, and now he's looking to face, trying to get back with his family, trying to see what life is like when you're not solely focused on this one thing. Even though that one thing, he's one of the best in the world at in what he does is in the kitchen. As we kind of wrap up here, is there anything that y'all are like just kind of looking like? What's an episode you want to see next season? Not necessarily has to be like some major story arc, but what's something that like you're like selfishly, I kind of want to see a story about this character, or is there some kind of some kind of little plot line that you'd like to see like them pull that thread a little bit more? Marcy, do you have something?
Francie and Nat, like what actually happened? Like we know that they've hooked up. We know that there was betrayal. Yep. Like what was the betrayal? Like I want to see that.
Yeah.
I definitely want Richie and Jess to like get it on. Like, I mean, they don't have to like get it on, but just like get together, please. And the beef crew and maybe like the little robot guy. Like, let's get a backstory on the little robot Chucky.
Go for Tristan. I think maybe he froze. Let's see if we can get him back here in a second. As far as like what I'd like to see for something for season 5, Gary, a character we haven't talked about, Sweeps, the wine guy. We know from previous seasons that he was a minor league baseball player. I would love to see, not necessarily like what he was like playing baseball, but I would like to see a Gary focused episode, because I believe that like I think we're gonna get something like that, because they always kind of throw us a curve, and obviously being a baseball player that works out well. But I would like to see a Gary episode, because we saw a little bit more of him this season. We saw him learning to kind of master his craft, but I would like to see an an episode focused on that character. Tristan, do you have something like that you'd want to see in season 5?
I would love a Gary episode. I thought I was calling for that after last season.
Yeah.
Claire, Carmi, Ted Kelly double date. Let's make it happen. I would love to see that. I want to see what that's like. What is Carmi like outside the restaurant? Like we've seen him at a party, get drunk
Right.
and like turn into like a frat bro a little bit, but like I want to see Carmi start to loosen up, get out of his comfort zone, do some social gathering and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It would be fun to like see like just a fun episode of The Bear, like one that's not, like built up with all these, these issues that the people have, but if they just could like kind of let loose and have fun, like maybe a party episode or something. Um, Maybe we'll get something like that in season 5. But I'm happy we're getting season 5. I thought that maybe season 4 was it, but we've got one more season of The Bear to talk about at least, hopefully more. So want to thank everybody for joining us for that. Want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us. King B Johnson, Yesenia, that's the best way to join us. We really appreciate that. And you can always find us on social media. We're out there. Just check the description box below. We got all our handles to follow us there. And so that about does it for our season 4 review of The Bear. Want to thank Marcy and Tristan for joining us. So as we get out of here, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.